viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Let's get ready to rumble! Good afternoon, everyone. And of course, welcome back to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you guys ready for the Battle Royale of the century? Donald J. Trump, heavyweight champion of the world, versus Marjorie Taylor Greene, a 5'4" mother from Georgia who has spent her entire career supporting the president. Now suddenly they're at odds? Well, hopefully you guys are smarter than that, because we've seen this movie before. We've seen it so many times. We're going to break it all down, so don't get too freaked out. Don't lose heart, don't lose hope. It's not just DJT wins, Warrior Mima. The people win. America will win. So yes, there is obviously a lot more going on here than suddenly Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump hating each other and being at each other's throats. No, this is a carefully orchestrated plan. If there's one thing I know about Donald Trump, this man knows how to work the media. And don't forget, Donald Trump really came up before running for president as the host of The Apprentice, a reality TV show. Donald Trump knows drama. So sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're about to get into it right after you hit that like button. All right. Welcome back, fam. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you hanging out. Yes, I see it in the chat already. It's kayfabe. That is my opinion. It's all kayfabe, but the reasons why it's kayfabe, that's what is particularly interesting, and we are going to get there. Don't you worry about it. But before we do, I have to remind you one more time, please hit that like button. Please help us out by hitting the thumbs up, sharing the show, whatever you can do to give us a little boost. Really do appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And let's go ahead and take a look at the sponsor of today's video. That is going to be my friends over at Brightcore. Let me see, where is it? Ah, yes, here it is, right here. All right, so you guys, did you know that life expectancy in the United States peaked at 78 years old in 2014? And global life expectancy is right now declining for the first time in 30 years. That's because people are aging and their health is deteriorating faster than ever before. Now, that's due to more toxins in the air, chemicals in our soil and food, and other external factors that are new to us. What most people don't know is that they can actually fight aging and disease on a cellular level, though, so don't lose hope. Scientists have discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells and protects the DNA from damage, which of course can lead to chronic disease and cancer. Now, the power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects, and now you can get all of the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule with Kimchi One. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains plus antioxidants and enzymes, because as we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats. But Kimchi One is a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, fungi, viruses, and even parasites, while boosting immunity and energy. And best of all, Kimchi One is made 100% in the USA. It's all natural, non-GMO, supports your gut, protect your cells, and feel younger every single day with Kimchi One from Brightcore. And best of all, there is a special deal for viewers of the program. Today, you can get 25% off your order when you use code REDPILL at mybrightcore.com/RedPill. Or for the best deal, call Brightcore at 888-383-5996. You're going to get up to 50% off, free shipping, and even get a free bottle of vitamin D3 with your order. That number again is 888-383-5996. So detox your body, rebuild your gut, and take your health into your own hands starting today. Thank you very much to Brightcore for sponsoring the program. All right, first of all, I wanted to give a big shout out to my good friend Mike over there at Space Shot 76. Because yesterday he had a very proud moment. His son was actually interviewed with his best friend over there on Fox News because apparently there was a teacher of theirs who had made some disparaging comments about Charlie Kirk, and these guys wanted to start their own chapter of TPUSA at their high school. And Mike says, I'm so proud of my son here who got on Fox News with his friend Braden. And I did tell him to do his hair. Dad is no longer cool, doesn't know what's in. So this is obviously Mike's son over here on the left, and then Braden is on the right. Let's go ahead and check out the clip.
For me, what he said that motivated me the most was saying that he was a garbage person, because all he was really doing was spreading his beliefs and political views on people who chose to go to him.
So, yeah, and then you decide to take action while the administration decides if he should be fired or not. Caleb, to you, what do you expect to accomplish when you get the green light, and we hope it's going to be eventually, to start this chapter? What do you hope to accomplish in doing this?
Yeah, so we hope to set up a safe space where conservatives and liberals can come together and talk about their beliefs openly, freely, just exercising our First Amendment right. Just like Charlie was unfortunately unable to do following his assassination. And adding on to what he said about motivations, yeah, what he said about a dead man, whether you like him or not, that's nasty to say to somebody or about somebody that was politically assassinated.
What a wonderful young man. I'm so proud of Mike. I know that he is beaming after his young son was able to get on and talk to the nation like this. I just thought it was so cool, and I wanted to give him a big shout out. So congrats to you, Mike. Congrats to your boy as well. All right, you guys. Now, here's something that I had meant to talk about on Friday, but we never got to it. So we've got to open up the show talking about the H-1B situation. So the Labor Secretary confirmed last week that H-1B visa fraud is out of control. We already knew that. But what's new is that the administration is targeting it specifically because obviously they want to make sure that Americans are going to get the job first. Basically, they've done hundreds of investigations, and what they found, many companies who are using the H-1B visa program in a fraudulent manner. This obviously disadvantages American employees who would hope to be getting these jobs, and it essentially shuts us out of the job market. So they are going to be clamping down on this. They are going to be prosecuting the companies that are doing this, and they've already announced major changes to the H-1B visa program. Those changes were announced in terms of the $100,000 fee that will be attached to an H-1B visa application. And beyond that, they are tightening down the system so that more and more of those jobs are only going to be used to train American workers, as Scott Bessent and President Trump told us last week. Take a listen.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up Project Firewall. Almost 200 investigations now have been brought forward. And what's important to recognize is that there are companies who are using the H-1 visa program who are abusing the program. What we want to make sure is we're always protecting the American worker. The president is absolutely correct. And not all things are and or. They can be together. And what we want to make sure is that we're providing the skilled workforce so that Americans have these jobs first and foremost. If that is not the case, and these businesses need to apply for the H-1B visa program, we want to make sure that they're following the law and not abusing and depressing American wages with foreign labor. That is not the goal of the program. We want integrity. I want to work with the Department of Homeland to make sure that they have that. So Project Firewall, it is the first time in history that the Secretary will use all the tools, and I have been able to sign personally some of these investigations. We will clamp down on these companies who are abusing and depressing wages and not protecting the American worker first.
All right, so that is great news. But H-1B is only part of the problem. There is another program called the L-1 visa program. So obviously, a lot of people talk about H-1B and its negative impact on American workers, but this other program, the L-1 visa, is being exploited in many of the same ways. Recruiters and companies use L1 visas to obtain very low-cost labor from India, but a lot of people are not aware of it. So what the L1 visa does is it allows multinational companies to transfer employees from their foreign offices directly into U.S. operations. You've got L1A, which is for executives and managers, and then you've got L1B, which is for workers with special knowledge. Now, unlike H1B, L1A has no annual cap, and there's no wage requirements, which makes them a lot more attractive for these multinational corporations to seek to import this cheap foreign labor. Indian nationals, obviously, as they often do, dominate the L1 visa issuance. They have for decades, and they've risen from about 4.5% back in 1997 to now 43.8% in 2006. And get this, 80.8% in 2011. Where we are in 2015, probably on that scale, we are close to 100%. Now, because there are no limits on the L1 program, there's no wage requirements because there's no labor protections. Companies are using this to bypass the much stricter rules that surround the H-1B program. Because H-1B has a cap of $85,000 per year, it requires specific wage and specialty occupation verification. But the L1A allows firms to transfer these executives and managers into the U.S. They don't have to prove that they actually perform managerial duties. And so a lot of companies just use this loophole so that they can replace American workers and do it at a much lower rate. IT firms, I saw somebody in the chat say that they were replaced with Indian outsourced labor. It was probably an L1 visa. This allows them to transfer these people in. Oftentimes, they'll have misrepresented their job titles, so they qualify for the L1A visas, and then they exploit the functional manager provision, which grants approval even when the employees are not actually managing anything. USCIS has recently uncovered around 1,800 instances of L visa fraud. That includes 200 cases, which would fall under the L1A recipients. These are people who were presented as managers, but we're not actually managing a single subordinate. And then investigations are still happening, but they remain limited because employers continue to argue that the USCIS lacks the legal authority to conduct these worksite compliance checks. As a result, you've got widespread abuse. It is basically unchecked. And companies have then underpaid foreign workers, which displaces American workers. And the Equal Opportunity Commission has found that Indian visa workers at TCS were systematically paid less than American counterparts. TCS is the biggest example. They've got 6,682 L1 visa approvals between 2020 and 2023. That compares to another IT firm, 1,289 in Infosys. That is the next highest recipient. How do we know about this? Well, whistleblowers have come forward. They're claiming that TCS has falsified their job positions. They fabricated organizational charts in order to get these L1A visa approvals. There was one employee who described the charts as a complete make-believe hierarchy. So the Equal Opportunity Commission has reportedly found evidence supporting all of these allegations, and TCS is frequently falsifying documents so they can get these L1 applicants. From October of 2019 to September of 2023, TCS again received 6,682 L1 approvals, while at the same time they were employing 31,000 workers within the United States, classifying fewer than 600 of them that were currently here at those 31,000 as executives or managers. Yet somehow they secured 1,969 new or renewed L1A visas in 2022 alone. You don't just have one whistleblower. You've got three different whistleblowers who have come forward from TCS, and they've stated explicitly that they are misusing the L1A visas to evade the H-1B rules. One was instructed to alter the company's organizational chart the day before President Trump's inauguration so that they could make it appear as if TCS had far more managers than they did. Another company, Vinod Govindajaran, another whistleblower, Vinod Govindajaran, said TCS fraudulently secured his L1A visa by falsely claiming he was a manager, despite the fact he was not managing a single person, but he was paid half of what his American coworkers earned. You've got a third whistleblower who's come forward named Badantu Banerjee. He stated that the company routinely created fake hierarchies and encouraged employees to bolster their resumes in inappropriate ways. Infosys, the other company we just mentioned, they also have their own violations. They actually paid $34 million in a civil settlement for systemic visa fraud involving both H-1B and B-1 violations. Other firms like Larson and Tubro, they have also faced lawsuits alleging they're circumventing the H-1B visa quotas by applying these L-1 standards. And Chuck Grassley noted that a 2006 Inspector General report found that the L-1 program was highly vulnerable to abuse because adjudicators often could not verify whether or not these L-1 applicants could actually serve in managerial roles. It's a lot of honor system, just as we have when people are registering to vote in states all over the country. So these are a big problem, and I am glad to hear that Lori Chavez DeReimer is addressing the H-1B fraud, but I hope that they are also taking a look at the L-1A and L-1B fraud, because this is clearly a major problem. I have no doubt that they will, but this is perhaps another one of those things that I think people should be putting on the radar of the administration. Now, we also have news from DHS. ICE has recently announced an Uzbeki illegal alien, someone who is a wanted terrorist, was driving an 18-wheeler in Kansas, and he had been able to get a CDL in the state of Pennsylvania. 31-year-old Akor Bazorov already has had an arrest warrant in Uzbekistan since 2022 because he was a member of a terrorist organization, and he's accused of distributing terrorist propaganda. He has gone online and called for jihad. He's also gone online and recruited other terrorists. DHS said he was caught and released. Of course he was, during the Biden administration in February of 2023. But ICE was able to catch up with him again on November 9th. He was working as a commercial truck driver, and he was granted work authorization back in the Biden administration, January of 2024, and he's had that CDL issued by Pennsylvania. Here is a picture of that individual. Of course, now he is going to be deported straight back to Uzbekistan, but this is just one in a long list of many such circumstances and stories that we have heard and we continue to hear on a regular basis. So it should very, very, very be happy in this, it should make you very, very happy to learn that ICE has now officially confirmed not only are they going to be arresting the illegal aliens, they are now going to be prosecuting the employers who are hiring illegal aliens. And that doesn't mean they're only going to prosecute employers who are hiring illegal aliens who have criminal records. No. If you're an employer of a company, if you're a business in the United States and you hire illegal aliens, then you are putting yourself in legal jeopardy. Let's take a listen.
At least over the first couple of days. And acting ICE Director Todd Lyons said it's not going to stop just at apprehending criminal illegal aliens. Listen to what he said.
We're going to focus on the worst of the worst, but we're also going to make sure if you're here in the country legally, we're going to get you out. And to the employers who employ and attract a lot of these illegal aliens that come in and steal American jobs, we're going to focus on those American companies as well.
Now, there's all of these protests to say, okay, you're not just focusing on criminal illegal aliens, you're focusing on folks who are just in this country illegally, you're focusing now on employers. But this is exactly what the Obama administration did in 2012, 2013, 2014. They went after criminal, they prioritized criminal illegal aliens. But they deported a lot of other people, too.
Exactly.
Who were just in the country illegally, and there wasn't a huge hue and cry from the left about that.
If you're in this country illegally, you made two choices, not just to enter the country illegally or stay in the country illegally, but now you have a choice as well. You can leave now, take a $1,000 exit bonus, free flight home, and then potentially return the right legal way. But if you don't, the message is very clear. We will arrest you, but I also think that there are more facts here as well. There's about 1,400 criminal illegal aliens that right now are in Charlotte's jails that they refuse to turn over to ICE law enforcement. If those sanctuary city politicians would work with us and actually let us into their jails to take out these MS-13 gang members, murderers, serial child rapists, which I've seen these lists of people, they are heinous individuals who are in these jails. If they are released back into Charlotte and not turned over to ICE, they will go on to re-perpetuate crimes.
They will, because we've seen it happen over and over again. But this is an extremely important development. This is something that we've been calling for a very long time. Now, it's also been announced by ICE that nearly 500,000 children that were essentially set free into the country, oftentimes put into the hands of abusers and pederasts, are now going to be found. Now, many of them have been found, but not nearly all of them. U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement has just launched a partnership with state and local law enforcement because they're going to determine the status of these 450,000 unaccompanied children who crossed the border during the Biden regime. The UAC Safety Verification Initiative is going to be conducting welfare checks to protect vulnerable children from sexual abuse and exploitation through collaboration with law enforcement partners. The former presidency had open borders policies which empowered human and sex traffickers, and the Trump administration is taking a sledgehammer to human trafficking rings and ensuring these children that were smuggled across the border are not being abused. The sad thing is that we know that some of them will be, and we also know that some of them will likely never be found again. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be out there doing everything that we can to try to determine where they are, if they're safe, and how hopefully we can get them back home. Assistant Department of Homeland Security Tricia McLaughlin, who was just speaking on the arrests of employers, said that Secretary Noem is leading efforts to rescue and stop the exploitation of these 450,000 unaccompanied children the Biden regime lost or placed with unvetted sponsors. Many of these children who came across the border unaccompanied were allowed to be placed into the hands of sponsors who were smugglers and sex traffickers. Now, the Trump administration has located a chunk of them, 24,400. They found them. They have them in person. They're in the United States, and they did it by making door knocks and home site visits. We've jump-started our efforts to rescue children who were victims of sex and labor trafficking by working with state and local law enforcement partners to locate these children. President Trump and Secretary Noem are laser-focused on protecting children, and they will continue to work with federal, state, and local law enforcement to reunite these children with their families. Now, the release made special note of 12 states. First of all, there was an effort that began just over the weekend in Jacksonville, and several hundred children were found. But also in Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Texas. In those states, we have had sponsors of unaccompanied children that have already been arrested because it was obvious what they were doing. Sponsors there have been charged with a variety of crimes that includes numerous types of assault, rape, domestic violence, attempted murder, drug trafficking, and, of course, human trafficking. Back in August, Chuck Grassley had noted that thousands of unaccompanied children were placed into these unvetted homes by the former administration. He said, "My oversight continues to expose disturbing evidence that the Biden-Harris regime turned a blind eye to tens of thousands of kids who needed proper supervision and care. It's appalling to prioritize speed and optics over the safety and well-being of children." And he gave special thanks to the Trump administration for even caring about this. Once again, I go back to President Trump's first term in office. He was the first president in my lifetime to shine a light on child trafficking and the horrific abuse that these kids would undergo. Now that he's back in office, he is once again doing the exact same thing, and it is sorely, sorely needed. Now, real quick, before we continue, I have a brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, this is a sponsorship from Ram's Horn Coffee. It's a veteran-owned and operated roast-to-order company in South Carolina. If you like fresh, clean, organic coffee, please give them a try. Each order is roasted, bagged, and shipped the same day. Viewers of this Rumble channel can actually get 15% off, and you'll get free shipping when you use the code RAMMED15 at checkout. RAMMED 15 at checkout. It's a goofy name, but it's great coffee. So go to ramshorncoffee.com, use that discount code RAMMED15 for 15% off and free shipping, or you can use the QR code you see on screen or the link that you find below. Thank you very much to them. All right, so over the weekend, federal agents were deployed beginning an operation in Charlotte, North Carolina, as part of their intensified crackdown on illegal immigration. Operations in Chicago have not stopped. They have not stalled. They are still ongoing. We are just now moving into different cities, and Commander Greg Bavino is there in Charlotte. This particular operation is funnily named Charlotte's Web, and it signifies a significant escalation of the federal efforts to head into Democrat-led cities and apprehend individuals that are residing in our country illegally. You know, it came out over the weekend, once this operation in Charlotte began, that there's some 990,000 people that live in Charlotte, and up to 150,000 of them are transplants. They are immigrants of one form or another. I don't know how many of them are illegal. And if that's only the legal immigrants, then you know that many more illegals are living there as well. But federal officials have confirmed that Customs and Border Patrol agents are now conducting enforcement operations throughout multiple neighborhoods in the city. It is North Carolina's largest city, so it's understandable why they'd start there. And DHS is stating that the deployment is intended to ensure Americans are safe and public safety threats are removed, because there are many criminal illegal aliens who have been given sanctuary there because of the sanctuary policies of the city leaders. Today, the Department of Homeland Security announced DHS law enforcement is surging operations for Operation Charlotte's Web in North Carolina. And this operation will target criminal illegal aliens who flocked to the Tar Heel state because they knew sanctuary politicians would protect them and allow them to roam free on America's streets. Nearly 1,400 detainers across North Carolina have not been honored, releasing criminal illegal aliens into North Carolina's neighborhood. Just like every other sanctuary city, what they'll do is they will arrest an illegal alien for one crime or another. DHS or ICE will place a detainer on them, and then because of the sanctuary laws, the local police are unable to hold on to them. They release them back out into the community, and of course they're going to go back out there and they're going to do exactly what they were doing before. Now, this is really ticking off those local politicians who made Charlotte a sanctuary city. That includes Mayor Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles and others who are, of course, Democrats. They have voiced strong criticism, and they said that these operations are causing unnecessary fear and uncertainty, and that residents simply want to go about their lives. Well, if you're not an illegal alien, you have every right to go about your daily lives. If you're here in this country illegally, even more importantly, if you're a criminal illegal alien who is here taking advantage of a situation that arguably favors you above American citizens, well, then of course your life may be slightly disrupted. All the more reason to get that CBP One Home app, get yourself a free ticket back to your country of origin, and a cool $1,000 check. Depending on the exchange rate in your home country, that may be a lot of money. Now, the officials are saying that local police departments must not participate in federal immigration enforcement, and they are urging the community to remain peaceful. That did not last long. Proponents of the crackdown, like Republican officials in Mecklenburg County, are arguing that Democrat leaders are demonizing the brave men and women of federal law enforcement, and they assert that President Trump has a mandate from the American people. That's why we voted for him. We wanted him to secure the border. We wanted him to clean up the illegal alien situation. We wanted him to make America safe and secure, bring back manufacturing, make us prosperous again, give us something that we can hold on to so that we can each have a piece of the American dream, as our forefathers did, going back to the days after World War II. A chicken in every pot and a car in every garage. That is a dream that many people simply find to be unattainable now. Let me also say thank you to Northern Pike. He says, Red Pill at YouTube, Semper Fi from Northern Pike. YouTube, always faithful, Semper Fi, all faithful to that one. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. And thank you also to the folks over here on Pilled. Let me say thank you to Trump One for the cookie. Uncensored Abe, what's up, homie? With the shades, good to see you, buddy. Judy the Lady Pug with the cookie. Filter Dog says, ICE just confirmed they are targeting employers of illegal aliens, even if the migrant workers don't have a criminal record. And then Trump One says, Toledo, Ohio fire chief just got fired last week for commentary against Charlie Kirk and being glad he's dead. Good riddance to the fire chief. Filter Dog says, sanctuary politicians in Charlotte ignored nearly 1,400 ICE detainers, releasing murderers, rapists, and child predators. Now Trump's DHS has launched Operation Charlotte's Web to take them off the streets. And Charlotte has been a hub for sex trafficking. Funny you should mention that, because Filter Dog, you are always, I'm like, how does this dude know my notes for the show, because every single time you know exactly what we're talking about. Yes, it's true. I think one of the main reasons that we are heading to Charlotte, well, excuse me, one of the main reasons that we are now in Charlotte is because Charlotte is a hotbed for human trafficking. This is one of the worst hotspots for human trafficking in the nation. And we're going to go ahead and watch this short clip basically discussing why the problem is so bad here.
New data now from the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and it shows the problem is growing in areas that have Democrat leadership, particularly Charlotte, North Carolina.
Now, is that a baseless conspiracy, guys? That human trafficking seems to pick up in areas where Democrats are in charge? I don't think so. It's objectively true. You can actually just take a look at the data. Although we may have been attacked in the past for saying that there may be a correlation between the two, I think it's quite obvious to anybody who's paying attention or anybody who has been paying attention over the years, these two things have long been linked.
The head of nonprofits that combat human trafficking in Charlotte, one of them spoke to Fox Digital.
Really is kind of like a perfect storm. There are a lot of variables. One of the things that we have to know is that trafficking happens everywhere. And so it happens in every city and every town, whether you're rural, whether you're city, it really doesn't matter. But for Charlotte, one of the things is that we have a lot of factors that attract a demand. Things like international airports, all of our interstates, you can get to California, you can get to New York, you can get to Florida. We have major sports teams. All of those things are drawing people who are coming and have disposable income. They're having a good time. We also are the second largest banking industry, second only to New York. And so you've got people coming in for business and then leaving.
A private investigation firm in the area says gangs with extensive resources are making the problem worse. It's also talked with Fox Digital, and here's a quote. The Bloods have a huge stronghold in human trafficking. They're one of the primary organized crime groups responsible for trafficking in Charlotte, end of quote. Boy, I haven't heard that the Bloods, the Crips, all...
Yes, they have a huge gang presence there. All of the factors that she mentioned are highly notable. You've got the convergence of money and travel, and now you've got criminal gangs and sanctuary cities, and it creates a hotbed, someplace where it becomes much easier to engage in human trafficking at scale. Now, Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino, as I said, is there in Charlotte, and here he is having an interaction with a woman, a Karen, and giving her a hilarious response because she was upset about them arresting a grocery shopping illegal alien. Let's take a listen. Oh, no, did they take it down? They took it down. Oh, man, that's a bummer. This was a good video. That's too funny. Anyways, Greg Bavino seems to have a great sense of humor. That's why I opened the show with that video of him where he's like, this is our effing city. Okay, you got to take control if you're going to take control. So she asks, why are you doing that? And he says, and somebody else says, what the F, man? What was he doing? And the agent says, he's an illegal. How do you know? He just admitted it. I thought he was grocery shopping. He could be. Illegals grocery shop. They got to eat too. Hold on. That was the wrong one. I wanted to hit that. I wanted to do the rim shot. All right. Now, here is also Greg Bavino talking about an act of violence, an attack on federal agents that happened just earlier today in Charlotte. It was
So what we had here today was assault on a federal officer. This individual assaulted federal officers at a gas station about a mile away and then engaged officers in a high-speed pursuit, failed to yield to our lights and siren. She traveled down this cul-de-sac here, came to a stop, and was arrested. That's what we know right now.
Thank you. Was it a protester?
That's a man, baby. I'm sure Greg saw the long hair and the up top, and he probably didn't get a good look at the Adam's apple.
Or
we don't know. At this time, we don't know.
Look at that. He's so hardcore. He's like, get the shot. Get the shot. Did you get the shot?
But they have not left. Now, of those 161,000 individuals, 6,300 are convicted.
All right. And we don't need to watch the whole thing. It basically just sits there watching that individual sitting on the ground. But yes, not only was it assault on a federal officer and fleeing and eluding, high-speed chase, probably ended up crashing their car. Yeah, I hope it was worth it, but I know that it wasn't, although he's probably going to be real popular when he gets to prison. All right, now, also down here in Florida, great news. Florida is also working with federal law enforcement, and of course, they have their own programs. State Highway Patrol over the weekend has arrested, well, maybe not over the weekend, but so far since this operation began, they have arrested 6,200 illegal aliens. Operation Criminal Return has also rounded up 230 criminal aliens. That includes child predators, but the 6,200 total illegals were rounded up and turned over to the administration. Let's take a listen to my governor, Ron DeSantis.
I'm pleased to announce the successful completion of Operation Criminal Return. This was a joint operation between ICE as well as the state of Florida, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. We nabbed 230 criminal illegal aliens off the street. Some of these guys had committed offenses against children, sexual predators. These were people that under the Biden administration, they were allowed to just roam with no threat of serious deportation. The times have changed. We have tremendous momentum in the state of Florida because of our leadership on being the #1 state to support the Trump administration's policies to take illegal aliens who are in our country, remove them, and send them back to their home country. So I want to thank everybody that's been involved with this. The state of Florida is leading. We're showing what can be done when you work collaboratively with the federal government on an issue that's very, very important to so many people, not just here in Florida, but throughout the United States.
Thank you, Governor. Let me also say thank you to Lee Walden. He says, Zach, am I mistaken, or is a sanctuary city and sanctuary state unconstitutional? In my opinion, it's in violation of the Supremacy Clause because it would make sanctuary cities and states in violation of federal law. I don't think that has been fully adjudicated at the Supreme Court level. That is something that is ongoing, but it's also something that is going to be addressed in a legislative sense, and I am pretty certain President Trump has talked about setting up an executive order to get rid of them. But it's going to have to be done at the legislative level if it's going to be implemented throughout the country. Now, because we don't need to get into it, but yeah, I consider them to be unconstitutional. Also, thank you so much to Micro Toolmaker for the $55 Rumble rant where we go one, we go all. Yes, sir. Thank you for being here. And also thank you for the 10 subscriptions once again dropped to the viewers over there on Rumble. Melody over on YouTube also says, maybe we need to hire bounty hunters to go after some of these illegals. It was my understanding that they had already begun a program like that, but they're not going to put the bounty hunters front and center because those people's ability to do their jobs is going to be dependent upon their ability to not be recognized. And I don't know if it's actually started yet, but it's something that we've definitely discussed and the administration has discussed as well. Maybe they want to see, what this new influx of 10,000 agents looks like. But I agree with you. I think it's something that we could definitely take advantage of. Now, also, at the southern border, a previously deported sex offender tried to get past U.S. Border Patrol at a checkpoint near Falfurrias, Texas. He was using fraudulent immigration documents. Now, as soon as he handed them over, it was pretty obvious that they were fake, so he didn't make it past inspection. He is a Mexican national. He was traveling on a commercial bus, and once he presented this fake U.S. legal residence card to the agent, they saw a number of discrepancies, and then they ran his biometrics. He is a 54-year-old convicted felon. He has been convicted of criminal sexual acts with a minor, lewd acts upon a victim under 14. He previously served 4 years in prison, and he was deported because he was a felon. So now he's facing another felony charge, felony illegal re-entry. Thank you to our highly trained agents. This sexual predator was stopped, and he was unable to make it back into our communities. Now, we also have an update for you on a story that I know many of you have been waiting on with bated breath. I'm sure you remember Judge Hannah Dugan, now no longer a judge, removed from the bench and indicted for her attempts to protect a violent criminal illegal alien from deportation. Well, I am happy to report to you that former activist Judge Hannah Dugan, after her indictment for taking this illegal alien and ushering him through a secret back door before ICE was able to capture him, somebody with a very long rap sheet, somebody who was there to address a domestic abuse case with the people that he had abused in the courtroom right then, she has utterly failed because the Department of Homeland Security announced on Friday they have, in fact, deported this 31-year-old illegal alien, Eduardo Flores Ruiz. And that is despite everything that former Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan had done in her courtroom to try to make sure that they didn't arrest him. Now, Assistant Homeland Security Secretary Tricia McLaughlin took a well-deserved shot at Dugan while noting that Flores Ruiz's lengthy criminal history was something everybody should take note of, including domestic abuse and strangulation. Eduardo Flores Ruiz, a previously removed illegal alien, has a laundry list of violent criminal charges, including strangulation and suffocation, battery and domestic abuse, and Judge Hannah Dugan's actions to obstruct this violent criminal alien's arrest and be an activist gives this a whole new meaning. So thank you to the brave men and women of ICE law enforcement. Now this criminal is out of our country. And she said, if you're here illegally and you break the law, we're going to hunt you down. We're going to arrest you and we're going to remove you from the country. That is a promise. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Judge Hannah Dugan's case is supposed to take place next week. And let me see. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that her case is actually going to begin next week. I think she's effed, you guys. I do believe that Judge Hannah Dugan is going to be found guilty in this instance. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that all pans out. No Thanks Joe says, thanks, Lisa and Zach. I hope you had a great weekend. And thank you again for your continued hard work. God bless, be safe. Same to you, my good man. Thank you so much. All right, now also from Tricia McLaughlin, she wanted to highlight the case of this illegal alien right here. This guy, Eric Lee, shared this picture of a man wearing an American flag shirt. He's got what appears to be a sparkler, and he's standing in a backyard. And he says, my posts about this are being throttled, but I'll give it one more time. This is Roman Saratsov. He has lived here since age 5. Tomorrow, he'll be taken from his U.S. citizen wife and 2 young daughters and deported to Ukraine, where he'll be conscripted into the army. Please share. And then there's a CNN article. And, of course, the CNN article says, he came to the U.S. as a child refugee from the former Soviet Union. Now he's a father facing deportation back to Ukraine. Well, that is a wonderful story, and of course it makes a great byline on the Crap News Network. But let's take a look at a little bit of sauce here, because Tricia McLaughlin also wants us to be aware that he's not just a father, he's not just a husband, and he's not just a refugee. He is a criminal illegal alien with a massive violent criminal history. That includes some big ones: assault with a deadly weapon, multiple counts of burglary, multiple counts of carjacking with a firearm, trespassing onto private property, multiple counts of taking a vehicle without the owner's consent, which is stealing, possession of a hypodermic needle or syringe, receiving stolen property, as well as multiple counts of conspiracy to commit crime. So although this picture makes him look like a nice, honest young man who's just trying to enjoy the 4th of July because he's so patriotic and loves the country that gave him refuge after the Soviet Union fell apart, unfortunately, that is merely a ruse. He is LARPing as a model citizen. He is simply a criminal illegal alien. Now, Homeland Security also pointed out that it's alarming that CNN can always be counted on to run cover for violent felons. Imagine if they showed the same care for American citizens. Wouldn't that be something, guys? On August 1st, ICE arrested aggravated felon and illegal alien from Russia, Roman Saratsov. Saratova has a final order of removal by an immigration judge from November 4th of 2014. His criminal history includes assault with a deadly weapon, multiple counts of burglary, etc., etc., etc. Everything that we already talked about. He was a legal adult when he committed many of these felonies. And under President Trump and Secretary Noem, if you break the law, you will face the consequences. Criminal illegal aliens are not welcome in the United States of America. Now, we also have another bit of fake news. This one is a story about a man that was shot by ICE. This is part of the operation in Charlotte. Well, it turns out that this story also is fake news. This is a viral claim you may have seen going around over the weekend, stating that ICE shot this poor Hispanic man in Charlotte. It turns out what actually happened is that he was arrested inside a hospital ceiling while he was attempting to escape. So we've got this video that's been shared all around social media this weekend. It shows a heavy law enforcement presence in Charlotte in a parking lot on Milton Road. Paramedics are seen wheeling a covered stretcher towards an ambulance while tactical teams stand nearby. And the text on the TikTok falsely says, ICE just shoot a Hispanic man in Milton Road, Charlotte, North Carolina. The clip quickly was picked up by a number of activist accounts. It was shared around by the normal, useful idiots. They were flooding timelines with rage. They were claiming Trump was gunning down innocent Hispanics in the streets. Some even twisted it further, falsely claiming the victim was a woman. But every single line of it was a lie. Let's take a look.
Pussy! Y'all ain't supposed to bring that to the hood, bro. That's what I'm trying to say. I ain't gonna let him beat you. Even a citizen probably. When you wake up, gang, escape.
ICE just shoot a Hispanic man in Milton Road, Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, didn't happen. All right, so the video has been viewed tens of thousands of times. It was shared on X as well as on TikTok. It's unclear exactly how many times it was viewed on TikTok because so many people are taking the video. But Secretary McLaughlin set the record straight. She says, no, this criminal illegal alien from Mexico had a panic attack and was taken to the hospital where he attempted to escape by climbing into the ceiling tiles from the hospital bathroom. Have you guys ever, tried to see, how much weight you can put on those ceiling tiles? He didn't look like a small guy, all right? You know, if it was maybe like a 10-year-old boy, I think you might be able to do it. But a full-grown adult man, you're going to fall right through. He was unsuccessful. He was apprehended inside the ceiling by law enforcement. So he wasn't shot. He wasn't an innocent Hispanic. He wasn't doing nothing, didn't do nothing. He was a criminal illegal alien who was being arrested and tried to fake a panic attack. Now, I want to go back to the sex trafficking aspect of this, because for me, this is one of the most important things. This is, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why these people in power are trying to protect this category of individual who are here in our country. If you're an illegal alien, you are far easier to take advantage of. It is more likely that you're going to engage in criminal behavior because you're already here as a criminal. You also may be coerced into committing criminal acts. If you're a child, it is easier to traffic you. And in San Antonio, Texas, authorities just raided an illegal sex club, a sex trafficking club, and there was arrests of some 200 illegal alien criminals that happened as a result.
Well, following breaking news early this morning, a large law enforcement presence drawing several agencies to San Pedro and Bassi. This is area just north of Almos Park. It still has the road closed this morning. Devin Karp is live there with what we've heard back from SAPD and the FBI confirming this is a federal investigation. Devin, a lot of different agencies still out there.
Yeah, Sarah, they're still here, and we've seen about 3 more cars get towed here since we last spoke with you just at the top of the 8 a.m. hour. Let's go ahead and take a look over here. You can still see a lot of different law enforcement officers, some saying police, some have FBI. I've even seen some ATF jackets with a lot of cars, supposedly from federal agents, that are still over here. They appear to be going through the Las Pollitas snack shack right over there, that pink trailer over there. We've seen them go through multiple cars, hearing car alarms go off as they work under their investigation. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Some of the nearby neighbors who have just been walking through that area have said they had no clue anything was even going on until this. But if you guys want to look, we got a look at some of the video of what happened last night when this all started around 2 a.m. On this, you can see one of our crews came across those multiple law enforcement agencies, which includes SAPD and the DPS with helicopters and a drone. Witnesses also reported hearing loud bangs with several people seeing smoke in the area and taken out in handcuffs. At this time, officers on scene have not released any details about what's going on. And we actually did just hear back from the FBI in a statement they sent to us. If you guys want to be able to look at that on your screen, it says, quote, "I can confirm that FBI San Antonio and Homeland Security Investigation San Antonio, along with their local state and federal partners, are conducting court-authorized activity in the vicinity in the intersection of San Pedro and Bassi Road in San Antonio, Texas. Additional information will be released as it becomes available." We're going to stay right on here at scene until we figure out exactly what's going on. In the meantime, though, there is a blockade that is set up over on this side of the street. If you are coming south down San Pedro, you will be rerouted. There are DPS troopers that are still over there. Cars coming northbound are still able to go as normal. As you see, they make their way behind me. We're going to keep an eye on this all morning long here on GMSA and on KSAT.com. For now, I'll send it back to you, Sarah. Devin Karp, KSAT 12 News.
So just imagine how much pain and suffering went through that place over the years, how many people were victimized, how many women, how many children. It's unfathomable. This is what they are protecting. Sabrado. Oh, Sabrado also gave me a Cash App on Friday. Thank you so much, Sabrado. Appreciate you. She also says, Zach, they are cleaning up this mess. It's going to take a minute, but it's getting so fun. Thanks for all you do. You are absolutely correct. You simply cannot fix a problem of this magnitude that was built over decades upon decades upon decades and do it overnight. It has to be done in a orderly fashion, and it has to be done one rung at a time. Now, we have new information about yet another U.S. Attack on a drug boat in the Caribbean Sea. Newly revealed is Operation Southern Spear. And the White House has said that they plan to continue the strikes, no matter what the European Union or any other foreign government says. So this was announced on Saturday, a drug trafficking vessel that was being operated, of course, by narco-terrorists. At the direction of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a kinetic lethal strike on a vessel operated by yet another designated terrorist organization. Intelligence confirmed the vessel was involved in illicit narcotics trafficking. They were transiting along a no narco-trafficking route, and, of course, they were carrying narcotics. 3 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed, and the vessel was trafficking narcotics in the Eastern Pacific, and they were struck in international waters. Let's go ahead and watch the boom. Oh, hold on.
Did you know there?
I got to get past this right here. Okay. I don't know if there's going to be any sound, but let's take a listen. Nope, no sound. And boom goes the dynamite. Stopped them dead in their tracks. All right, now this is highly notable because Trump has just announced that the U.S. is likely to start negotiations with Venezuela. The State Department is also moving to designate another cartel, the Cartel of the Suns, as a foreign terrorist organization, same designation as Antifa. With a massive U.S. military deployment in the Caribbean, President Trump and the administration have just unveiled 2 opposed initiatives related to the Republic of Venezuela. On one hand, President Trump has announced that the path to negotiations with Venezuela might still be open. However, on the other hand, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that the Cartel of the Suns, which allegedly is headed by by Maduro, is to be designated a foreign terrorist organization. President Trump tends to do this. It's like, would you like the carrot or the stick? Because either way, we're going to get what we want at the end of the day. So this is notable because many people have theorized that perhaps Maduro himself is captured within a narco state that is not necessarily in his control. The cartels themselves that are working to produce cocaine out in the jungles of Venezuela may have more power than the government of Venezuela itself. If Venezuela is welcomed into the international community through direct conversations with the Trump administration, and let's say the United States is allowed to go into Venezuela to take out these narco trafficking production houses and routes directly, well, then that in and of itself is going to lead to a lot less drugs on the street. But President Trump tends to do this. He's like, hey, we're going to be friends. No, we are going to be enemies. And eventually the people that he's toying with end up coming to him like a puppy at the heels of its master. We've seen it happen time and time again. President Trump is a master of manipulation, the art of the deal, my friends. Let me say thank you to Unix Reactor for becoming a monthly supporter. Appreciate you, homie. Also, Lee Walden, if sanctuary is unconstitutional, which I you think it does, Sharia law, communism fall under that criteria? No. Sharia law, this is different. So communism is a political designation, okay? So in the United States of America, we have the freedom of political association. Communism used to be illegal, and then it was found through a ruling in the Supreme Court to be illegal to ban communism. People have the right to their ideology. Sharia law is going to be something that is illegal because it's directly in conflict with the law of federal, state, or local government. So if somebody is trying to implement Sharia law, they're not going to be able to do it because that's going to be a huge thing. It's why it's never been done in the United States. Now, people might clamor for it. And if things were to allowed to be on their natural progression as they were before, we may have had it in certain places. But you can't have Sharia law, but you can have people who are communists holding elected office. The best they can hope to achieve, however, is the implementation of ultra left-wing policies. Personally, I think that communism should be illegal. I don't think that we should allow it at all. No thanks, Joe. I read that one already. Okay, no problem. All right, real quick before we continue, brief message from our friends over here at Rumble and Perplexity. You guys, if you're looking for a smarter way to browse and enjoy your favorite content without ads, you've got to get the Perplexity Pro bundle with Rumble Premium for just $19.99 a month when you sign up before December 31st. Normally, that would be $29.99 as a value. With Rumble Premium, you get ad-free viewing experiences across all your devices and access to exclusive premium content with no interruptions, just the videos and streams that you love anytime, anywhere. Plus, Perplexity Pro boosts your productivity with unlimited research, unlimited uploads, exclusive member perks, and access to the latest and most advanced AI models for faster, smarter answers every day. Save over 30% on this powerful bundle by heading to rumble.com/premium before December 31st to sign up and unlock your premium experience. Thank you very much to Perplexity and Rumble. All right, continuing. Mexico. So let me just set this up for you. There currently appears to be a revolution against the narco-terrorists, which is essentially against the government because the government is aligned with the cartels and narco-terrorists. And this all popped up over the weekend. As soon as I saw this, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. This looked to me like perhaps it could have been a color revolution. Now, the difference is it's us, the white hats, the good guys, Trump's administration, that would be implementing this color revolution in Mexico. The people are rising up against the government because the government is in league with narco traffickers and cartels. and the people are aligned with the wishes of the United States government. President Trump and the State Department have been attempting to talk to President Claudia Sheinbaum for many, many months about shutting down these narco-trafficking networks. Claudia Sheinbaum has been suspiciously unwilling to do so. And now, after a series of assassinations of anti-Sheinbaum and anti-cartel candidates and elected officials, the people have simply had enough. So what we saw over the weekend were video after video of this revolution that began in Mexico City. It was on TV, it was all over the internet, and it appears to be thousands upon thousands of furious Gen Z protesters that were storming Claudia Sheinbaum's presidential palace. This was a big, big riot. These are young agitators who are fed up with the rampant crime and the corruption. This has long plagued the nation of Mexico, but they also appear to be very fed up with President Claudia Sheinbaum, who is also an avowed leftist. And she has quite literally been coddling the drug cartel, the various drug cartels of Mexico. Now, these Mexican narco-terrorists have killed hundreds of thousands of people, innocents, if not millions, not just Americans, but also Mexicans as well. They've had violent and illicit activities that have essentially ran the streets of Mexico. And then, of course, that spills over into our southern states. I think that the narco traffickers and the cartels also have a firm toehold here with elected politicians down along that southern border as well. And the protest was also attended by fans of Michoacan Mayor Carlos Manzo, who was recently killed by these cartel terrorists. They wore the same straw hats that symbolized his populist political movement. Brilliant independent journalist Julio Rosas was on scene, and he was documenting the chaos. In one video, you can see a protester being knocked out by police while others in the crowd swarm and knock out another officer. Protesters also managed to evade the barrier protecting the National Palace, which forced police to respond with munitions. And incredibly, some determined protesters managed to tear down the wall. Literally, they had big concrete barriers that they had set up all around the palace. They basically lassoed it, and then they all just like pulled on it and pulled it over. And even before the violence began, protesters were in unison shouting, "Sheinbaum is a narco president." Let's take a look at some of these videos. All right, take a look. All right. Now, can I tell you with 100% certainty that this was led or aided in any way by forces of good here in the United States? No, of course not. Although I was almost indirectly told that by someone who I can't specifically reveal. And it's somebody who has been a great source for me in the past. And so I kind of smiled when he texted me over the weekend and was sending me these videos. But what I can tell you is that the removal of Claudia Sheinbaum would effectuate the wishes of the United States government and would allow it to happen without us having to go in and do it directly. It would also allow us to avoid military strikes into Mexico under the current administration, because Sheinbaum has already said that she's not going to react positively to that. And of course, it would do a lot to get rid of the narco-terrorists if the current corrupt Mexican regime was no longer in power. So you add into that the fact that our own intelligence agencies have been active in Central and South America for quite some time, certainly in Mexico. And it would not surprise me at all if there was some element of help or coordination that went into this just to allow it to have as much energy as it did. Now, here they are climbing over the wall. So the cops on the other side of this wall have got to be freaking out. Here they are. Look at this. Mostly peaceful media. That's hilarious. I love it. Okay, and here is a slightly more peaceful demonstration where they're calling Sheinbaum a narco president.
Narco presidenta! Narco presidenta! Narco presidenta!
Now here's the thing. Here's the thing. These are not leftists. These are not the Antifa of Mexico that are doing this. This is a truly grassroots rebellion of people who are fed up with the corrupt government. The government is a leftist government. The government would be aligned with the Antifa of Mexico. Now, of course, the politics are not as cut and dry in Mexico as they are here, and they're not even really that cut and dry here. But all told, Claudia Sheinbaum's government is a leftist, socialist type government. Ouch. All right, now I think this is where they tear the wall down. Yeah, now during the election when Sheinbaum was running, it's alleged that she was in league with the narco cartels at that time because they killed basically all of the right-wing candidates. And they basically left the room wide open for her and for her alone. Now, here is an explanation from a sheriff in Texas about what exactly is going on, why this is happening. So his name is Roy Boyd. And he said their investigators have found that the Mexican government works directly with the cartels. Big surprise, right? So much so that America is giving money to Mexico to go after the cartel. But instead of using that money to go after the cartel was then allowed to use that money to take out their enemies. Take a listen.
Cartel is water, and they're going to take the path of least resistance. So when you shut off one avenue for getting things in, they're going to find another avenue. I think that those actions that you speak of go more towards forcing the Mexican government to actually do something. The problem is the cartels and the government of Mexico.
No, hilarious too. Says the grassroots of Mexico will not handle the drug cartels. Only Mexico can do this. You're absolutely right. But if the government of Claudia Sheinbaum falls, it makes it a lot easier for the United States to step in and offer that necessary assistance. Under this particular government that currently operates, they will not allow the United States to come in and do what's necessary. Now, of course, the United States cannot be seen to go in the modern age and directly topple a government like Mexico, which is our direct next door neighbor. We just can't do that anymore. It's got to happen with a little bit of inside baseball, if you know what I mean.
Have been in business for quite some time, that they're now to the point of almost being indistinguishable because the Mexican government is directly involved in the narcotics trade.
No, we don't want Mexico to be the 51st state. We want them to be their own sovereign nation.
As well. And we've seen that firsthand in some of our investigations where the drugs weren't coming from the cartels. The drugs were actually coming from members of the Mexican government. And so I think that the only way to get Mexico to move and do something is to put those pressures on them. But you also have to realize, kind of like when we gave all that money to the Mexican government to go after the Sinaloa cartel, did they go after the Sinaloa cartel? No, they went to the Sinaloa cartel and said, hey, we need to show the Americans that we're actually doing something. who are the people you want eliminated? And so we basically spent our tax dollars in America to try to eliminate the Sinaloa cartel, and the Mexican government used that money to help the Sinaloa cartel eliminate their competition.
So it's a shell game. It's a shell game. They allow the Sinaloa cartel to operate. They went in, they took out a couple of smaller guys. There you go. There you have it. It makes it look as if the Mexican government is doing stuff. They accept U.S. money, and then they come back with a nice little bow-tied story that they can give to the U.S. officials. And they can say, oh, but, you know, the cartel is tricky. They're everywhere. But they are truly indistinguishable. The politicians of Mexico and the cartels themselves are indistinguishable. Now, we also have statements from Claudia Sheinbaum, because after all of this happened, people in her country were like, you need to go after the cartels. And she said, no, I'm actually not going to. And she said that what we saw over the weekend was really a right-wing insurrection. So the assassination that I mentioned earlier, Carlos Menzo, the mayor of Uruapan, he was outspoken and an opponent against the narco traffickers. And he wore that signature white cowboy hat that you see right there. He also had a sheriff's star on his body armor. He would get on helicopters and order his police to shoot at cartel members. He took a hard line. He said, shoot first and ask questions later. That is based. I love it. Well, it was November 1st, Day of the Dead, when he was shot in the middle of his town in front of a large crowd. His killing immediately sparked demonstrations in Michoacan that quickly spread nationwide. And then we saw what we saw over the weekend. Now, in Michoacan, 7 mayors have been killed and 1 was kidnapped since 2021. And Carlos Menzo was the 3rd mayor assassinated in that state this year and the 11th nationwide across Mexico in the past year. Lots of Mexicans saw him as a hero. They compared him, some compared him to people like Charlie Kirk because he had given hope to the people, but the people who hated him and wanted to stop him killed him. An influencer from Mexico wrote he wanted a brighter future for Mexico, a future without corruption, assassinated broad daylight. Now, Claudia Sheinbaum was confronted about the cartels and how she needs to go after them, but she dismissed the events that we saw over the weekend as a right-wing operation amplified by political rivals. She said they were right-wing fascist bots, and she insisted that such people don't really exist in Mexico. Most of the country supports her. She did, of course, condemn the violence, but she argued that the most aggressive acts were actually carried out by hooded groups. And her administration maintains that national security efforts are currently underway. They've taken great steps against the cartels, and they've been able to avoid a full-scale drug war. Meanwhile, people are still getting beheaded and shot on the streets. The fact that the cartels continue to operate, kill civilians, wield enormous influence over the government is something you cannot ignore down in Mexico. And Sheinbaum has made public statements that many view as proof that she is aligned with them. She has refused to deploy the army or declare war on the cartels. She has also said she will not randomly kill people. Seems very similar to the arguments that the Democrats are making here against the Trump administration for taking out the narco-terrorist boats in the Caribbean Sea. She said that fighting the cartels is outside the framework of the law. Really? They basically have your country held hostage. What could be more within the framework of the law? And that returning to war against the narcos would be authoritarianism. It would be fascism. And it is permissible to kill without any trial. Impermissible to kill without any trial. In essence, she is publicly stating she's not going to touch the cartels. She will not attempt to dismantle this system of corruption that keeps Mexicans poor and enriches their politicians. Sound familiar? This is an organized criminal network operating in Mexico, just as we've got an organized criminal network operating here in the United States. It's just a little bit more overt. So we have yet to see what is going to happen here, but leaked U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration intelligence links the governor of Michoacan, Ramirez Bedolla, to cartel connections. They have shown him to be connected to another criminal group called Los Viagras through his aunt, Annabel Marin Bedolla. She's the wife of Adalberto Camparan Rodriguez. He is the former mayor of Aguila, And he is now detained inside the United States on, guess what? Drug trafficking charges. A journalist by the name of Annabel Hernandez has alleged that Carteles Unidos operates under Alfredo Ramirez Bedola's protection, and during his administration, 7 municipal presidents in Michoacan have been killed. Hipólito Mora accused Carteles Unidos of intervening in the June 2021 election to help Ramirez Bedola win for Morena, saying Carteles Unidos worked to support Morena, and Carlos Manza openly accused the governor and the state police of corruption. Serious allegations also extend into national politics. There was a trafficker turned informant. He spoke to the DEA, and he negotiated and delivered roughly $2 million to former President Lopez Obrador's 2006 campaign. And according to confidential government documents, campaign workers through that race were approached by unidentified individuals offering cash or high-value items, and it was understood that these individuals represented the local drug cartel. So although corruption or direct payments to the president have not yet been proven, what is clear is that she does not have any intention to confront the cartels, and she plans to maintain the status quo. So that leaves Mexico exposed to U.S. extraterritorial anti-narco trafficking enforcement carried out by the U.S. military, which is where we go with this clip from President Trump. What the heck happened? History, reopen last closed tab. President Trump was asked about this today in the Oval Office. Would he launch strikes into Mexico to stop drugs? He said, it's fine with me. Let's take a listen.
In Mexico, or putting American troops or American personnel into Mexico to deal with it?
Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. Mexico is... Look, I looked at Mexico City over the weekend. There's some big problems over there. If we had to, would we do there what we've done to the waterways? You know, there's almost no drugs coming in through our waterways anymore. Isn't it down like 85%?
It is, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know who the 15% would be. It wouldn't be you.
No, that's for sure.
No, I think it's been...
tons and tons of
You would say
drugs.
that's a big signal.
Absolutely.
We have almost no drugs coming into our country by the sea, by, the waterways. And you know why, okay? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Would I do that on the land cars? I would absolutely. Look, every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives, not to mention the destruction of families. These families are decimated forever. The mother, the father, the children, they never recover really from it. When you lose somebody like the way they live, if you lose them, but the way they die is horrible.
Is it something?
So when we knock out a boat and we save 25,000 lives, that's great. Now, do I feel the same way about the corridors that they use? We know every one of them. We have every one of those corridors under major surveillance. We have nobody coming in through our southern border. But we know exactly how they get their things here, how they get the drugs here, fentanyl, cocaine. Colombia has cocaine factories where they make cocaine. Would I knock out those factories? I would be proud to do it personally. I didn't say I'm doing it, but I would be proud to do it because we're going to save millions of lives by doing it.
Would you only do it with Mexico's permission, though?
I wouldn't answer that question. I've been speaking to Mexico. They know how I stand. We're losing hundreds of thousands of people to drugs.
So would we? Sure. Why not? Should we? I think we should. I think that the safety and security of American lives is the only thing that the United States should be doing at the federal level. And if that includes taking out drug production factories, narco-terrorist hotspots, if that includes killing massive numbers of criminals, I have no problem with it. Okay, because people may say, oh, no trial. We're just killing people without a trial. We would be killing killers. We would be killing people who are stone cold, stone hearted killers. I would have absolutely no problem with it. Now, Lee Walden says Greenland, Canada, Mexico, our own multipolar world built that wall. And then Terry A. says Mexico should have known a Spanish-speaking shine bomb wasn't going to end well. Glad they're fighting for their country. I agree with you. Miller Biz, happy 17th, Zach. Yes, it is. Keep fighting the good fight. The cartel is fully being confronted. Thank God and bless our president. Yes, so I think it's only a matter of time before something like this happens. And the crazier things get down there in Mexico, the more likely it is that we're going to have to do it. Now, in many cases, the cartel is kitted out better than the Mexicans themselves. And on top of that, many times the official channels, again, are directly in bed with the cartels themselves. Now, we have an update on the pipe bomber investigation after a couple of weeks of speculation and that article from The Blaze. FBI Director Kash Patel is now making a statement on the investigation into the pipe bomber. Let's go ahead and take a listen. Keeping in mind that this is an ongoing investigation and Kash can only say so much.
And we've been working like we have with the deputy director to unearth that. And as it relates to major investigations of public importance like the pipe bomber, again, I say, stay tuned. We reviewed every single investigation of public consequence, reopened them, reevaluated them, because we feel it cannot go untouched. We are not going to let these things lay by and allow the fake news media to run roughshod over us. Our indictments speak powerfully in court. If you don't believe us, just look at the response that the Eastern District of Virginia under Lindsey Halligan did to James Comey, and look at the notes and publication of evidence. That's the type of material we have, but we have to safeguard our prosecutions because the ultimate accountability is with the verdict in a jury room.
Understood.
All right, so that's about as pointed as you can get. If there was not something that they were investigating, they would have to say, you know, it is stalled, or, you know, we're doing this or we're doing that. But there is an active and ongoing investigation, and for us to get the answers, it's going to have to come out in court. So just stay tuned. All right. Now, Kash was also asked about accountability in a general sense for the grand conspiracy for January 6th. And he says that there is a 100% chance that we are going to see people held accountable. Let's take a listen.
And I want to move on to a few other issues before you go. And of course, we always talk about the last 10 years of conspiracy against President Trump. And it started with the Russia collusion, on to the indictments and the impeachments. And of course, January 6th. Do you have any news for us on January 6th in your investigation?
Yes, James, I agree with you. It is time to play by their rules, okay? The rules of engagement have clearly changed, and that's why I found it so amusing that it looked like a mini color revolution was happening down in Mexico. We can very easily take the lessons learned from decades of our enemies, using them against us, and turn the tables on them so that we can more successfully engage on the battlefield, because this is not your grandfather's FBI, okay? This is not the same type of mob that we dealt with many years ago. I mean, these people are sophisticated. This is a technological revolution. They are embedded at nearly all levels of power, not just here in the U.S., in Mexico, every other country. But accountability here at home. This is most of all what people want. Remember, we have a grand jury that is currently meeting down in Florida. Subpoenas are continuously going out, and so much more is coming.
I think you'll see something on that front very soon. As you know, we can't reveal our ongoing investigations. And as it goes for things like Russiagate, Maria, again, maybe no one better than you has covered it. And look, I lived it. I was weaponized as a victim against a weaponization, politicization of law enforcement, including at the FBI, by former senior leadership there. And I was the one that ran and uncovered the Russiagate hoax and conspiracy back on my House Intel days. I can't talk about ongoing investigations, but I think you've seen reporting in the media and reflections as to what's going on. We will not allow anyone who participated in the Russiagate conspiracy, or those who improperly and illegally, in my opinion, spied on me, members of Congress, and even members of the media for a political end state, to be left unturned. These are investigations that are of important consequence to the American public. Deputy Director Bongino and I have lived through it with you.
Unix, you make an excellent point, and this is something I've said on many occasions. If President Trump and this administration is to be successful, It's not enough to just show up and say they did it, okay? The nation has got to have the back of this administration. That's why we have this slow period of exposure of all of this information rolling out one piece at a time, where for us, it's stuff that we've known for a very long time. But people often forget the fact that there are millions, tens of millions of Americans who have yet to fully wake up to just the depths of depravity and corruption that exist in Washington, D.C. This has to be something that people support, because when it happens, it's going to be devastating to the American political establishment.
You and everyone else. And we don't ask you to trust us, but look at the work we've put in under President Trump's leadership. We are going after every single person, from drug traffickers to those who create precursors to those, most importantly, who weaponize our system of law enforcement. You've already seen indictments of people like former Director James Comey and others, and we're not done.
Well, by the way, Comey is asking for all of the charges to be dropped right now, as you know. So the audience wants to know if we're ever going to see accountability, Director. And I know that there's a limited amount you can say about this with regard to what happens next. There was a criminal referral for John Brennan. Do you believe we will see accountability?
Yes, 100%. We are delivering this accountability. But I'd just like to remind the audience, and I think you know this better than anyone, they built this weaponization scheme over the course of a decade plus. In these first 8 months that we've been there, we've already charged individuals, thanks to this great Department of Justice, who are at the pinnacle of this weaponization of government.
So take that into account as well. This is not merely a crime that took place over a weekend at Comey's home in the Eastern District of Virginia. This is a vast, overarching, 10-year conspiracy or more, having dealt with dozens upon dozens of deep state career officials to get all of the evidence required to indict and successfully put those people in prison. It's not the kind of thing that you want done slapdash. You do not want this to happen in such a way so that these people get off. I have so much more for you on this, but continuing.
He turned over, by the way, Maria. James Comey turned over 3,000 documents to Congress for oversight. Christopher Wray turned over 13,000. This FBI, under our leadership, has turned over 38,000 pages of information to Congress for congressional oversight purposes, which is wed to accountability, which is wed to the referrals that they send us back that we activate at the FBI. Every single letter they send us that has a substantive referral is opened by this FBI.
Director, just to clarify, how many Americans were arrested regarding January 6th? I know many people spent jail time as a result of January 6th, and you've been doing a deep dive investigation into this. There's a lot of speculation online. We want to know who planted the pipe bomb. Is there anything you can tell us there? And how many people were arrested on January 6th?
Too many. Far too many, far too baselessly, as a result of a weaponization of justice and a
Oh, is that Rook Castle out there? Now it's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Rook. Good to see you, my dear. That is great to see you out there.
politicization of targeting President Trump's supporters. It was unlawful and improper, and we've been working like we have with the deputy director to unearth that. And as it relates to major investigations of public importance like the pipe bomber, again, I say, stay tuned. We reviewed every single investigation of public consequence, reopened them, reevaluated them, because we feel it cannot go untouched. We are not going to let these things lay by and allow the fake news media to run roughshod over us. Our indictments speak powerfully in court.
Okay, so we heard this last part already, but I wanted to play that first. So not only is this a grand case, not only does it take into account just reams upon reams of evidence, but you, up until this point, have been watching a captured and corrupt judicial system and investigative body in the FBI. What we're seeing now is a different beast, a wholly different animal. Now we have to work within that corrupt judicial system to make these cases unimpeachable so that we can bring the justice that is necessary, so that we can put these people where they belong. And it's not an easy task, okay? We've got these organizations that are working against us, and On that note, I'd like to bring up some breaking news from Sam Antar, which came out just before I was getting ready to come on the air. This is in regards to Letitia James. So listen to this. Letitia James's lawyers on November 7th filed a motion to dismiss her federal indictments, claiming that there was insufficient evidence to bring charges. They also claimed that there was no probable cause, and they also claimed that there was an absence of evidence. Now, in the next several days, between the 7th and the 15th, there were 4 amicus briefs that were filed with the court. All of them repeated the exact same claim, that career prosecutors had properly reviewed the evidence and found it to be insufficient. However, they also kicked themselves in the rear end, stabbed themselves in the eye, so to speak, because on November 14th, inside of a routine procedural motion, James's own defense team accidentally revealed just how large the case against her actually is. This is not a handful of documents, a sloppily produced case. This is a case against Letitia James that is of massive proportions. The government has produced over 17,000 documents, over 115,000 pages of evidence within those documents. And in terms of the size of this, like on a flash drive, nearly 2 terabytes of data. That's in the first batch of discovery that the government has handed over. That amount of evidence is nearly insurmountable for any attorney. It's also nearly insurmountable for any defendant, because if the government is producing that much evidence that proves the guilt of the person they brought the indictment against, the level of evidence against them is overwhelming. Now, here's the other thing. Both of those things cannot be true at the same time. It is not possible that these so-called experts could have reviewed the evidence and said that it's insufficient, and it's impossible that James's lawyers would believe it's insufficient, considering how much evidence has been produced. In addition to that, they also admitted that they need an extra 2 weeks just to process this massive volume of records that were handed over responsive to the crimes committed by Letitia James. If this was insufficient evidence, they wouldn't need an extra 2 weeks to go over it. So Sam Antar says the math doesn't math. Number one, either career prosecutors properly found that this case is built on insufficient evidence, or number two, which is the truth, the government has 115,000 pages requiring a 2-week extension to the process, showing just how guilty your client is. Not both, only one. When Eric Siebert had access to this information before he resigned, he had 40 years of public records proving systemic fraud on Letitia James. 8 months of published forensic investigations from Sam Antar and Joel Gilbert. The FHFA criminal referral, which cited the fraud cited in those forensic investigations, and 5 months of FBI investigation with subpoena power. He's the one who called it insufficient. He's the one who walked away and said he didn't want to prosecute Letitia James. Hours after President Trump publicly stated, "I want him out," he resigned. So the timeline of the events of this case prove this contradiction. On November 7th, Letitia James's lawyer files a motion claiming insufficient evidence. Between November 7th and November 15th, 4 amicus briefs repeat the claim. November 14th, James's lawyers reveal 115,000 pages of evidence. November 16th, Sam Antar publishes analysis of this insufficient evidence claims. And today, November 17th, we find out that Letitia James's lawyers accidentally admitted that, yes, this case is built on some sauce. So either Eric Siebert was completely incapacitated, Eric Siebert was completely inadequate. His 40 years of service his decades of public service and the 40 years of public records was not enough for him to find this crime, or Eric Siebert saw this substantial evidence and he just chose not to act. I think that is far more likely. So Judge Walker now has a decision to make. That's the judge in Letitia James's case. If Judge Walker accepts that James's false premise is correct, that career prosecutors properly found insufficient evidence, he creates a fairly dangerous precedent, because after this case, any politically connected defendant can now claim vindictive prosecution by alleging political pressure, even in the face of overwhelming documentary evidence existing, predating any alleged political involvement, and dating back decades in the hands of both prosecutors and the defendant. That is a dangerous precedent to set. And I think the judge is probably going to be smart enough to know that if he makes that decision, this is going to completely destroy the American judicial system. So the question is Letitia James now going to ask for counsel with the prosecutors? Is she going to sit down, try to make a deal? I mean, the public records are singing volumes at this point. So now, if Judge Walker makes the decision to accept Letitia James's argument, it means that not only is his career over, because I think that anybody would agree that he is completely outside of the boundaries of ethics and, what is established in law and precedent here in the United States. But if he doesn't accept it, then this case is going forward. And when this case goes forward, the amount of evidence that is in this case is certainly going to put Letitia James in prison for a very long time. So he's going to have some balls. He's going to have to find some balls within him, because 115,000 pages of evidence, that is not insufficient. My friends, that would be sufficient to put anybody away for a very long time. All right. Now, we also got some new information about would-be Trump assassin Thomas Crooks over the weekend. We had been told by the FBI previously that Thomas Crooks had no social media presence, 20 years old, and he's basically doesn't hang out online perpetually. I don't know a single 20-year-old who doesn't practically live online, doom scrolling nearly 24 hours a day. There was also a video that came out last week that Tucker Carlson put out. He did like a 30-minute special on Thomas Crooks. And the video showed several videos that had never been seen before. They were from Thomas Crooks's Google Drive account, showing him just dry firing a handgun in his bedroom. Now, Tucker also got his hands on Thomas Crooks's YouTube account. There was an anonymous source who had somehow gotten it and then given it to him with all of the comments. And it showed that Crooks had a strange journey from being a diehard Trump fan to being a deranged never-Trumper. No matter which side of the aisle he sat on, he seemed to have a particularly hostile and violent bent. When he was a Trump supporter, he said he wanted to take out Democrats, and once he was a anti-Trumper, he wanted to take out anybody who loved Donald Trump. Now, there was also an account from a known Nordic terror organization that is like an Antifa affiliated terror organization who seemed to be egging Thomas Crooks on to commit some type of act. And he used a quote from Mao Zedong that the only power comes from the barrel of a gun or something like that. So we also now have learned that Thomas Crooks had a DeviantArt account, and he used pronouns, they, them, in there. I saw people saying that he was a furry, but I didn't see anything indicating that he was a furry here. The account is under the name The Epic Microwave, and the drawings on DeviantArt is a place where furries hang out. Like, that's for sure. But he had these pictures that he had drawn, which obviously show violent acts, people being shot, that sort of thing. And the fact that furries congregate here is the only indication that he was affiliated with furries. I don't know who he was following or anything like that, so I don't really feel like it's safe to report on that. But one thing that is very strange is that outside of all of these accounts that Thomas Crooks had with various usernames, he also had a PayPal account. And the name on that PayPal account was an alias, Rod Swanson. Now, what's weird about that is that the name Rod Swanson appears to have been the name of a former FBI senior agent named Rod Swanson. He was the chief of investigations for the state of Nevada during 2017, which was when Stephen Paddock had allegedly committed the Vegas mass shooting. That's pretty strange. That is very interesting. Now, Ron Swanson was contacted by Miranda Devine, who wrote an article about this, and he said, I don't know anything about that kid or his family. I don't even use PayPal. I don't even know how to set up a PayPal account. I don't know that I believe that, because PayPal walks you through the process of setting up a PayPal account. They make it pretty easy to set up a PayPal account. But crooks had accounts on Snapchat, Venmo, Zelle, GroupMe, Discord, Google Play, Quizlet, Chess.com, Gab, and Quora. Most of those are new. We were told he basically didn't have any online footprint. That's outside of even the DeviantArt and then the YouTube account. We knew about the Epic Microwave account on Gab because Andrew Torba had confirmed that before. So anyways, the story surrounding Thomas Crooks just gets stranger and stranger. And the one thing that I am certain of is that we don't know nearly as much as we should at this point. Let me say thank you to... Got a couple of gold pills over here unpilled. Let me see. Deplorable Farmer, thank you for the can. Filter Dog says, Tren de Aragua, #2, captured in Colombia. They just took down Flipper, the second in command of the transnational Tren de Aragua cartel, one of Nino Guerrero's most trusted men. Great news. Glad to hear it. Filter Dog also says, take it from an American, at Claudia Scheinbaum, you are going to need a much, much bigger wall to keep Mexicans out. That's funny. No thanks, Joe. Says, hey, Zach, it may look better on their balance sheet or make it easier to sell something off, but when checking on it for 5 minutes today, but besides some furniture and background photos, absolutely nothing has changed from MSDNC to MS Now, as I'm sure we all expected. Yeah. So MSDNC ended operations. They have changed their name to MS Now, and that's the only thing that changed. Allegedly, their style of reporting is supposed to change, but as far as I can tell, nothing has changed. They may get updated sets over the coming months. I think really they just wanted to not have... They wanted us to not be able to call them MSDNC anymore. I think that was really what they wanted to. Let me also say thank you to Good Dog 45 for the can. Thank you to Boys Blanc for the can. Thank you to Red Gun 51 for the gold pills. Thank you to Lynn RC7 for the cookie. And thank you to Good Dog 45 who says, great job, Zach. Thank you. Great job to you as well. All right. Now, getting back to James Comey. Earlier today, a judge in James Comey's trial, or excuse me, a judge working on the James Comey case at the Justice Department had ordered that Lindsay Halligan and the Eastern District of Virginia turn over all grand jury materials to James Comey. He is also claiming that potential government misconduct may have tainted this case. You've got to be kidding me. This is obviously a case of the judge trying to play offense for James Comey, because this is not normal. You definitely do not have the judge rule that the grand jury documents should be turned over to the defendant. I mean, how many times have we attempted to get the grand jury documents from Jeffrey Epstein's cases? The man is dead. Okay. The victims want the information to come out, and multiple judges will not allow the grand jury testimony to be handed out by anybody. So earlier this month, the magistrate judge had ripped the DOJ and accused them of putting together a slapdash indictment against James Comey. That's not what happened. I mean, we know James Comey lied to Congress, and a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia has already indicted him on those 2 counts. He made false statements and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. This is, of course, related to September 2020 in his Senate testimony about whether or not he authorized leaks. We've also got emails of him talking about this. Back in 2020, Comey lied when he told congressional investigators he never gave anyone permission to anonymously leak information about Hillary Clinton's email. emails. We know that that is not true because we have seen it happen. James Comey, of course, presented the evidence that was presented by prosecutors proves that James Comey gave his friend turned lawyer Daniel Richman permission to leak to the New York Times, and he cheered it on. Again, we have seen those emails. The Justice Department also has other materials related to Comey's case on a desk at the FBI headquarters, and Comey's lawyers accused the DOJ of withholding evidence in violation of the Constitution. So Judge William Fitzpatrick scolded prosecutors for the way they've handled this case so far and said that they quickly moved to indict first and investigate second. That is ridiculous. Now, Fitzpatrick has ordered the DOJ to turn over all these grand jury materials to Comey's attorneys, and Comey's attorneys argued that some of the documents used in the indictment might be privileged. Fitzpatrick also said U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan made 2 missteps to the grand jury that may have put the case in jeopardy. So let's take a look right here. Lindsay Halligan is now asking the judge for an emergency hold on Magistrate Judge Fitzpatrick's exceedingly rare order forcing the DOJ to turn over all grand jury materials, including recordings to Jim Comey and his team. And it appears that Fitzpatrick may have misrepresented the facts. Let's take a look here. So, the government's position is that the disclosure of grand jury materials is not warranted under the facts presented to the magistrate judge. Indeed, the government believes the magistrate judge may have misinterpreted some facts he found when issuing the latest order to release the grand jury materials to the defendant. For instance, whether the defendant has any standing to challenge the Richmond materials, the full context of the statements made by the prosecutors to the grand jury that Agent 3 was exposed to potentially privileged material and that 2 indictments were presented to the grand jury. Additionally, the magistrate judge acknowledges he did not immediately recognize any overtly privileged communications. So the possible exposure of privileged materials to the grand jury was the primary focus of the magistrate judge's inquiry. Having seemingly settled that issue, the magistrate judge turns to premature issues such as suppression that have not even been briefed by the parties. So again, Judge Fitzpatrick appears to be playing offense for James Comey to try to get this case thrown out. We know that there is a familial connection between the two, and it is my opinion, allegedly in my opinion, that Judge Fitzpatrick is himself a deep state asset. So we'll see where that goes. Rook Castle, good to see you, Rook. She says, great to see you on ScrewTube. Funny how the tides have turned. God bless you and the missus. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate you very, very much. All right. Now, the next section of the show is going to have to do with the Epstein files. This will take us directly into the main event between President Trump and MTG. So I want you to hold on to your butts because we're about to break it wide open. Okay, real quick before we do, one final message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, you've probably noticed that Rumble is growing fast and they are not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And that's why there is now Rumble Premium. It's an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform, no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content that you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and even more from your favorite creators. And right now, Rumble is offering $10 off of an annual subscription. You can get it by going to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium with the promo code STUDIO. No more ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. You can also use the QR code on screen and the link that you might find below. Thank you very much. All right, so first of all, another revelation coming from the Michael Wolff, Jeffrey Epstein communications. The House Oversight's release of Michael Wolff's unpublished Epstein profile reveals the convicted underage sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein, told him he spent more than 100 hours with Bill Clinton including ferrying him around on his jet, and that Epstein's address book contained many Clinton contacts, further deepening the level of interpersonal relationship between Michael Wolff and Jim Comey as well. Now, we also learned that U.S. Virgin Islands delegate Stacey Plaskett, who is a mental midget delegate in the U.S. House of Representatives, she's not a voting member of Congress. During the 2019 testimony of Michael Cohen, Stacey Plaskett, who had previously represented Jeffrey Epstein and also accepted many, many, many campaign donations from him and refused to give it back after it was discovered by the general public, she was actually texting Jeffrey Epstein while Michael Cohen was testifying so that she could get dirt from Jeffrey Epstein to ask questions of Michael Cohen. It is definitely not normal that a delegate or a member of Congress would be texting a pedophile sex offender in the middle of a hearing. And what we have here is an overlay of the text messages at the same time that Stacey Plaskett is texting Jeffrey Epstein. And you can see in the questions she asks Michael Cohen that the content of these text messages is completely legit. Okay, this is 100%. Take a look. So Jeffrey Epstein texts her and says, "Are you chewing?"
Obama was president of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago,
she replies and says, "Not anymore." And you can see that little smirk on her face.
he commented that only black people could live that way. Attorney-client privilege, yes.
So she texts, Jeffrey Epstein texts her and says, Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of the secrets. Rona was President Trump's personal assistant or secretary.
I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are going to review that. Did you review?
And she says Rona, because she doesn't know who Rona is.
You going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
And then she texts Jeffrey Epstein and says, quick, I'm up next. Is that an acronym? Come on, man.
Was president of the United States. That went on.
Come on.
This committee even today in a written question, you helped out the president's campaign or were involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman, even in your words today.
And Epstein replies, that's his assistant.
Was your idea for the campaign dating back to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump organization?
They are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
Now, Epstein had also texted her to ask about Weiselberg, ask about Rona. So here she is taking Epstein's direction while she's texting him as she's sitting in Congress, a convicted pedophile sex offender.
So Alan Weiselberg is the chief financial officer.
Uh-huh. You got to quickly give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is the Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his.
Jeffrey Epstein texts her back and says, good work. Good work. Jeffrey Epstein was TDS patient 0. When you read through these emails, there's only one conclusion you can come away with, that Jeffrey Epstein had a deep-seated hatred of President Trump. So now we come to the main event. Isn't it interesting that that President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene seem to split over the release of the Epstein files? Before I talk about this, I want to take you back several months to the breakup between President Trump and Elon Musk. As soon as Elon Musk went against President Trump and said that Trump was in the Epstein files, the Democrats immediately, I said it before they even did it, I said, watch, every Democrat is now going to come forward and say, release the Epstein files for the very first time in their life. And that's exactly what they did. Suddenly, there is a split between Elon and Trump, and now all of the Democrats, the people who had previously hidden any mention of Jeffrey Epstein, now suddenly it was the number one issue. And I said at the time, I said, they have stepped in it. I think that President Trump and Elon Musk are engaged in a kayfabe type battle. Okay, this is theater. This was designed to, number one, take pressure off of Doge because everybody hated Elon Musk and they were stopping Doge from doing the necessary work. So Elon leaves government, Doge leaves the news. Everyone starts focusing on the Epstein list, okay, in quotations, because the list is not the list. It's the files, but the files are not even like one tranche. It's not like one package. They're all over the place. Which leads us to today, which leads us to the other day, when the House Oversight Dems released those 3 emails from the files of emails that they got from the Epstein estate. They took 3 emails that they thought they could position against President Trump to make him look like he was guilty of something, and then they put him out. And then House Republicans respond, and they're like, no, you get everything. We want to release everything. And so then we look through the files, and what do we find? It's only damaging to Democrats. And yet, despite the fact that over and over again, whether it's testimony before Congress, which also came in the intervening time, or the public statements of victims or the emails themselves, it's one conclusion that Donald Trump had never done anything untowards, okay, that many other people did, but Donald Trump was not one of them. So now Marjorie Taylor Greene texts Donald Trump and says that, you should release the Epstein files. And I guess that he doesn't respond to her, she said. And then he comes out with this message right here, splitting with Marjorie Taylor Greene, another Elon Musk kayfabe situation. I am withdrawing my support and endorsement for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia. Over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements for our country, including a total and complete victory of the shutdown, closed borders, low taxes, no men and women's sports or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, biggest regulation cuts in history, stopping 8 wars, rebuilding our military, being respected by every country in the world as opposed to being the laughingstock that we just were 12 months ago, having trillions of dollars record-setting invested in the USA, and having created the hottest country anywhere in the world from being a dead country just 12 months ago, and so much more. All I see our wacky Marjorie do is complain, complain, complain. It seemed to all begin when I sent her a poll stating that she should not run for senator or governor. She was at like 12% and she didn't have a chance. Unless, of course, she had my endorsement, which she wasn't about to get. Now, I'd like to go back and say that President Trump has always endorsed Marjorie Taylor Greene. They have always been aligned on everything. And it was only this thing about the Epstein files where suddenly Marjorie started to diverge. Suddenly Marjorie starts to diverge. There appears to be a little bit of a rift. And at this point, when this poll was sent, as far as anybody knew, President Trump still supported Marjorie Taylor Greene. So now he's saying she won't win without my endorsement, so I'm going to pull it. I think that it's possible that the opposite might be true. Marjorie Taylor Greene might be able to win her district. Although, anything is possible because, of course, everything is fake and gay. But to win a Senate seat or to win a governorship, she has to campaign the entire state of Georgia. And even if we remove fraud from the equation, Georgia is still a more purple state than it was several years ago. So she would have an uphill battle. John Ossoff, the Democrat, is currently senator, one of 2 Democrat senators. And if people don't like John Ossoff, they might vote for somebody else, but they might not vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why? Because she is so closely aligned with President Trump. Let me continue. She has told many people that she is upset that I don't return her phone calls anymore. But with 219 congressmen and women, 53 U.S. senators, 24 cabinet members, almost 200 countries, and an otherwise normal life to lead, I can't take a ranting lunatic's calls every day. I understand that wonderful conservative people are thinking about primarying Marjorie in her district of Georgia. that they too are fed up with her and her antics, and if the right person runs, they will have my complete and unyielding support. Was anybody calling prior to him making the statement? I can't tell you for sure, but I guarantee you that people are calling now. I guarantee people are calling Marjorie Taylor Greene and saying you did the right thing on going against Trump. I guarantee you people are calling Trump and saying, thank God you got rid of wacky Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is the same thing that would have happened when Elon and Trump split. Everybody's making phone calls. How can I position myself to best take advantage of this situation? How can I use President Trump's distrust of Elon Musk against him? How can I use Elon Musk's distrust of President Trump against him? Assuming that that was even a real thing. It takes people and it brings them out of the woodwork. It lets you know who is trustworthy. It's like when the administration leaks information. You know what they leaked last week, which turned out to be total bullshit, was that the White House was calling every member of Congress and saying, do not release the Epstein files. They may have actually done that just to get people talking about it. But what's obvious is that Trump doesn't care about the so-called release of the Epstein files. Okay, Trump may have called it a hoax, but as I have said on numerous occasions, the hoax was always the Democrat framing of the story. What is the framing of the story? Trump and Epstein were best friends. Trump did bad things with kids, just like Epstein did. We know that is completely untrue. Epstein and Bill Clinton were friends. Bill Clinton rode on Lolita Express and went to the island with Jeffrey Epstein. So did Larry Summers and Reid Hoffman and all of these other people who showed up in the emails. But you know who didn't? Donald Trump. Donald Trump never showed up in the emails. So President Trump cajoling his enemies, appear weak when you are strong, anyone, cajoling his enemies into doing what he wants them to do, which is what? Vote to release the Epstein files. Now it's going to happen. So finally, she has gone far left, even doing The View with their low IQ Republican-hating anchors. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. So what does Marjorie Taylor Greene do? She goes on freaking CNN the very next day after this tweet comes out. Maybe it was 2 days later. It was over the weekend. She goes on CNN and she appears to completely turn. I simply do not believe that after everything Marjorie Taylor Greene has done, supporting President Trump, that suddenly she is now a far left CNN contributor. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people in Georgia who are now going to support Marjorie Taylor Greene. The people who hate Donald Trump, who want anybody who could oppose him, just like they did with DeSantis, they are now going to support Marjorie Taylor Greene. All of the rhinos in the Republican Party, all of the people with money, all of the Democrats who hate John Ossoff because he's done a shit job, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to have a whole heck of a lot of support that she wouldn't have had otherwise, because these people believe that she and Donald Trump are no longer aligned, that they are now enemies. Except if it's kayfabe, as I'm suggesting, then that means that Marjorie Taylor Greene has a real potential to either become the next senator, or the governor of the state of Georgia. And she would, in fact, have been this entire time a staunch defender of exactly what Donald Trump is doing, which is what? Making America great again, putting America first. Donald Trump's been doing that the entire time. A lot of the stuff that Marjorie has complained about hasn't made sense. Okay, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense if she's playing a TV character. It makes sense if she is reading the script, because that's what President Trump wants her to do. Take a listen to what she says on this interview. It's insane. It is totally out of character.
I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country. And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another, and we need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences. Yeah. And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements.
All right, so I don't disagree with that. But now Marjorie Taylor Greene is the darling of CNN, the darling of The View. And it remains to be seen. Is she going to be able to carry this forward and to successfully parlay it into a higher office? Is she doing it because this is what President Trump is suggesting needs to happen? I think that we saw something similar with Tucker Carlson. President Trump and Tucker Carlson seem to have these disagreements. But you know what happens? Tucker Carlson chirps, we didn't go to war with Iran. Tucker Carlson chirps, we are now disengaging from Israel. Marjorie Taylor Greene chirps about the Epstein files. Guess what? Not only has President Trump demanded an investigation into the Democrats that were friends with Epstein, President Trump is now demanding that Congress vote to release the Epstein files. Do you know what this is going to do? This forces every member of Congress to put their money where their mouth is. Either they're for real and what they've been saying this entire time is legit. Oh, we just want the Epstein files out. Democrats and Republicans alike. Or they vote to release the Epstein files, and every single one of them who are full of shit and have simply been chirping off at the mouth and playing a part this entire time, they get exposed. And then every single American who has been paying attention and thinking that, oh, yeah, my congressman wants to release the Epstein files. We wanted Trump to release the Epstein files. Okay, well, Trump actually could have released whatever files we had, okay, because the DOJ is part of the executive branch. So President Trump could have said, just release the Epstein files. President Trump wants this to be the spectacle that it is. He wants to expose those who are lying liars, okay? This, yes, Mullins, this was always the plan. This has always been the plan. This has been a long game this entire time. Here we are. I said at the beginning, we've seen this movie before, y'all. We've seen this movie before. Yes, it is all about timing. You know what? You know what's coming up very shortly? The midterms. So now we have this vote on the Epstein files just as people are moving into election season. I bet you, I said this before, but I bet you that documentary from Steve Bannon with 50 some odd hours of taped interviews with Jeffrey Epstein, that will come out to coincide with these midterms. President Trump is forcing every member of Congress, whether they are up for re-election or not, to put their money where their mouth is and expose whether or not they really want the Epstein files out. Because if they vote against the release of the Epstein files, well, then guess what? They're going to have to explain that to everyone. Every person that they do an interview with is going to ask them, why did you not vote to release the Epstein files? All you've been talking about since the spring was releasing the Epstein files. Trump has already said, I will sign this legislation. Just pass it and I'll sign it. So Trump never wanted to keep the Epstein files safe. He wanted to expose the people who were involved in the Epstein files. He convinced the Democrats to ask for their own destruction with their release. And then he convinced them to further that destruction even more with the release of these emails. And now he has convinced them to go ahead and sign this legislation. All right. So now this can take us back to Thomas Massie as well. Maybe Thomas Massie and Trump have been coordinating on this the whole time, too. Thomas Massie also might not realize that he's being played. He might think that, he's somehow a thorn in President Trump's side. Who knows? Okay, who knows? But I am telling you that I just simply do not believe that the fight between President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene is legitimate. And I know because President Trump has not only declared the need for the investigation of the people who really were Jeffrey Epstein's friends, going to the island, riding on the plane, but now he's saying, give me the paper and I will sign it. And you put everything out there. So I think that this is pretty clear here. Now, let's go ahead and take a listen to John Solomon here. This is actually, I believe this came out. Yeah, this is like Friday. Okay. This is talking about the opening of this investigation. Now, again, when we hear about something like this, it's not like they just started an investigation. They've already known a lot of this stuff for a very long time. This is just the reveal. This is the public reveal. This is the public narrative for people. These are for everybody sitting at home, eating their popcorn, watching their movie.
Of news, particularly on the Jeffrey Epstein front. Yep, Congress has released a whole bunch more of emails. The Democrats tried to make hay, but it hasn't stuck to Donald Trump. You know where it's sticking? To Democrats. And today the story really significantly boomeranged around. Why is that? First, Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer accused Democrat Jamie Raskin of working.
And K-Roz, I am not suggesting that Thomas Massie is dumb. I know Thomas Massie is an intelligent man. That doesn't mean that egos don't get in the way, and it doesn't mean that people are able to really see this from a 40,000-foot view. So, yeah, definitely not saying Thomas Massie is dumb.
With prison officials to leak confidential communications from his client. Those prison officials apparently have been disciplined, but that is only the beginning of it.
Here's the other thing. Jamie Raskin got these emails that we talked about last week from Ghislaine Maxwell through people at the prison. Those people have been fired. And Jamie Raskin himself may be in legal jeopardy because of the way that he received those emails and then released them.
Just a few moments ago, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that she is naming the acting U.S. attorney in New York City, Jay Clayton, to investigate Democrats' relationships with Jeffrey Epstein and whether any of them rose to the level of criminality. Why? Because so many of the emails today didn't involve Donald Trump or Republicans. That's right. It involved all those Democrats. And this time around.
And they are the ones who are getting hit with this boomerang. Now let's take a look at some of Donald Trump's truths. Beginning at earlier, midnight last night. He says he shares David Schoen, which was a Jeffrey Epstein lawyer. We've shown this tweet on here many times before. This has been out for several years. But David Schoen said, if Jeffrey Epstein had any dirt on Donald Trump, he would have had great leverage in the criminal case against him at the time he died. The fact that he unequivocally said he had none ought to shut down the false claims otherwise. But facts are no obstacle to political attacks. It shows you that Congress doesn't care about facts. It's all about their spin on the narrative. And that's the only thing that they've been trying to do. Their grand hope was that they could convince you that Donald Trump had done something wrong because they think you're stupid. They think their constituents are stupid. Donald Trump again says it's a Democrat hoax for purposes of deflection from their crimes, just like the Russia scam. They had the sleazy relationships with Epstein, and they should be prosecuted. And guess what? They will be. Continuing. This is from the 16th at 9:15. As I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein, are looking at various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein. And the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I care about is the Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are winning big, our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, gaining trillions of dollars in investment into America, a record, the rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens, ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone, and so much more. You guys look at the list of things that we have achieved, that President Trump and the administration have achieved, again, in the face of nearly insurmountable odds. And we are now just finally getting to the point where the co-conspirators of Epstein are being investigated for prosecution. Nobody cared about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive. And if the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before our landslide election victory. Here. Some members of the Republican Party are being used, and we can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. Ha, ha, ha. Take a listen to President Trump on Air Force One, where he talks about specifically going into Epstein's friends.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Congresswoman, was on CBS News. She was talking about how the files should be released. We anticipate that a vote will happen in the House. I know you have...
He's saying, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Congresswoman, was on CBS News. She was talking about how the files should be released. We anticipate that vote will happen in the House. I know you have
about the investigation today.
I don't care about it, released or not. What I think you should do, if you're going to do it, then you have to go into Epstein's friends.
You have to go into Epstein's friends if you're going to do it. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to do it right. We're going to have to investigate these people.
This Reid Hoffman spent a lot of time on the island.
Reid Hoffman, who spent a lot of time on the island. Reid Hoffman, who paid for E. Jean Carroll's legal cases against President Trump.
I was never on his island.
I was never on his island. Reid Hoffman was on the island.
Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times.
Bill Clinton went there 28 times. How many times have we heard that?
You're going to have to look into his friends. Because
look into his friends. That is exactly what we're doing.
If they're going to do that, then I think the perfect guy to do it would be Southern District, somebody like Jay Clayton. I understand that's
Jay Clayton.
Does
the Congresswoman have a point, though?
Does Marjorie Taylor Greene have a point?
Does she have a point?
I know nothing about her.
On the release of all the files.
Well, they can have whatever they want. They already do. I think they have 50,000 pages already. Look, this is a Democrat hoax. This is a hoax put out by the Democrat, and a couple of few Republicans have gone along with it because they're weak and ineffective. But this is a Democrat hoax to get away from the fact that they just lost the shutdown, and they've lost the elections. They've lost the big election, to me, in a record number. They lost the popular vote. They lost the swing states. They lost everything. I think it was 312 to 220 something. So this is a way of not talking about that. It's a hoax. This is no different than Russia, Russia, Russia. And it's headed up by Democrats and some very weak Republicans.
So what are they going to talk about once the Epstein files come out? It's funny because Jamie Raskin is still acting like Donald Trump is hiding something. Chuck Schumer is still acting like Donald Trump is hiding something. They are about to be presented with everything that they have asked for. Let me go back to Rumble. Let's see. Lee Walden says, President Trump ain't kidding. We have them all. At the Pink Panther song comes to mind. Freya and Boy says, Tina Peters has been sick and is not doing well. Free Tina now. Let's make a difference and call everyone. I'm putting out a challenge to save Tina Peters. Let's make noise. Thank you, Zach. Yes, please. Now, Ed Martin has said that they are currently working on getting her out, but it does not hurt to call and to make noise. Kitsko says, by Thanksgiving, MTG will have so many liberal knives in her back, she will be the turkey. I don't know. I think this is going to go a lot longer than Thanksgiving. And Cyrus says, this is all just Zach's deflection from Muffingate. Release the Muffingate files. I love it. I love it. All right, let me jump over here to Pilled very quickly. Thanks again to Rook Castle. Great to see you as well. Thank you to One Thunder for the can. Thank you to Boys Blanc, who says, appreciate you. Please hug your bride tonight. And thank her for sharing you with us. I absolutely will. And then Boys Blanc drops another cookie and another one and says, cookie fight, and then drops 1, 2, 3 more. Karen Allen, 43, drops a cookie. Karen Hare says, this is going to be great. Country Girl says, happy Monday. And No Thanks Joe says he can also blame the Dems on the release of the Epstein files to big banking if there's any implications, like with JP Morgan. Bless. So, yes, there is. JP Morgan is another one that Donald Trump already said they should be investigating because JP Morgan was profiting off of the proceeds of human trafficking. They've already paid settlements in other jurisdictions like the Virgin Islands. All right, so I don't even think we need to go through this next article because, I mean, we've gone over every bombshell from the Epstein files that have come out recently. So just know that none of them fall back on President Trump. All of them fall at the feet of the Democrats. And just to finally wrap that up, Larry Summers, one of those people who President Trump had mentioned, also former treasurer for, I believe, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. He spent some time on Epstein's Island. He also flew on the Lolita Express. And I'm sorry, he was an economist for Clinton and Obama. But yeah, he is one of those people who is now being investigated by the Department of Justice. Now, here is President Trump from the Oval Office talking once again on the congressional release of the Epstein files.
Vote on tomorrow. I just want to be super clear on your position. Do you want to see that pass the Senate? Would you sign that bill if it gets to your desk?
I do want to. Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman. You look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton. They went to his island all the time, and many others. They're all Democrats. All I want is for people to recognize the great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought prices way down, but they're going way lower.
I'd also like to mention here the frame of reference that Donald Trump has used to talk about this. Everybody was confused. Not everybody. Plenty of you got it. But a lot of people were saying, why does he keep calling it a hoax? Why doesn't he say something else? Again, Donald Trump is a master manipulator of the media. Appear weak when you are strong. Donald Trump already knew about all of these people associated with Jeffrey Epstein that would have been in those files. All Donald Trump would say, it's a Democrat hoax. Okay, and then that keeps everybody talking about it. That keeps everybody guessing. That kept everybody in Congress saying, release the Epstein files. All the people out here, the panicans, the lefties, saying, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. What does Donald Trump have to hide? Never had anything to hide. But he kept it in people's minds, and they kept talking about it until the release of these emails. And only after the release of these emails, where the proof is there, you have discovered it yourself, you have come to the truth, or you have heard it from somebody that you trust, the proof is there. Now Donald Trump talks about the very individuals who are present in these real files. Now Donald Trump asks for the prosecution of those people that are in those files. So now he says a different tune. He doesn't need to just say it's a Democrat hoax, because it was a Democrat hoax. The framing of the Epstein information. Again, that Donald Trump was Epstein's buddy. It was everybody but Donald Trump. So now he can say it's a hoax because they have proven him to have no culpability. He can name the people who are in there because the evidence is there, black and white, plain as day. People have found it. And he can go back to all of the accomplishments that he was able to make in that time when people were bitching and moaning about the Epstein files, the Epstein files, the Epstein files. Timing. It's all about timing. Appearing weak when you are strong. Your enemy attacks when you are bound up, covered in iron, and they have not found a way through your shield. Donald Trump is a brilliant tactician. Donald Trump knew what he was doing this entire time.
Energy on ending 8 wars and another one coming pretty soon, I believe. We've done a great job. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it. You know, we've already given 50,000 pages. You do know that. Unfortunately, like with the Kennedy situation, with the Martin Luther King
Ellen's not a real person, so I just banned her.
Situation. Not to put Jeffrey Epstein in the same category, but no matter what we give, it's never enough. You know, with Kennedy, we gave everything, and it wasn't enough. With Martin Luther King, we gave everything, and it's never enough. We've already given, I believe the number is 50,000 pages. 50,000 pages. And it's just a Russia hoax as it pertains to the Republicans. Now, I believe that many of the people that some of the people.
ND Patriot? I mean, if they were, how would we know? I mean, certainly they didn't insert anything that was negative to Donald Trump. That would be what I would assume they would have done to create some narrative, but they didn't because they couldn't. So the only thing that's come out here is these emails which seem to incriminate them. Now, pedophiles are not going to sit there in emails and be like, ooh, tell me all about how you molested kids. Like, that's just not how they're going to talk to each other, because they understand that everything they're saying can potentially be looked at later. They may say things that are slightly incriminating. Certainly after the WikiLeaks came out in 2015, 2016, before the 2016 election, that was probably a wake-up call for them on how to communicate electronically. But if they did manipulate them, they didn't manipulate them enough, because it's clear that there is a trail of evidence between Epstein and his friends on the left.
People that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. And we'll see what happens. What I just don't want Epstein to do is detract from the great success of the Republican Party, including the fact that the Democrats are totally blamed for the shutdown. You know, they cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars with that, at a lot of inconvenience. So I'm for I don't, they can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them. And it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. And I don't want to take it away from really the greatness of what the Republican Party has accomplished over the last period of time. Yeah,
and this is totally understandable, right? Because while the investigation is going on, what else do we really need to say? I want to see those people indicted. I want to see them put on trial, and I want to see them put in prison. In the meantime, let's continue to stack up the wins. By all means, let us continue to make America great again. Let us continue to bring about the golden age. All of the morons over the weekend, last week, that were tweeting out MAGA is dead. Now, the only thing that's dead is your participation in it, okay? Because Make America Great Again is still alive and well. We are America first, and we are making this nation wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. All right, you guys. Thank you, Texas Tanya, who says, thanks, Zach. I appreciate you. And that will be all, you guys. Okay, I am going to get ready for Baseless Conspiracies in 3 hours over on Badlands Media. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening. Let me see. Eric, you are not crazy, buddy. No, I don't know why you'd say that, but yes. And Leslie over on X says, spot on, Zach. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, you guys. Is communism assimilating? Baseball. Is communism assimilating? I guess I don't know how to answer that. I mean, communism is collectivism, really. I mean, there is no taxes in communism because there is no profit in communism. Everybody works for the collective good or they die. So communism is fundamentally at odds with American individuality, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Hopefully that answers that. All right, you guys, I hope to see you tonight. If I don't see you tonight, be back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. because I guarantee you I will be back for yet another episode of Red Pill News Live. Hit that like button, help us out, share this show, and I hope to see you in the very near future. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Congressman.